The censorship was just one part of what we saw happening both by UK and US so-called former military contractors, but also currently employed, including somebody that was working for the Navy in 2020 when they created something called the Cyber Threat Intelligence League, supposedly of volunteers, but many of these people were working actively for the Department of Homeland Security. We also saw people from the FBI working with social media companies to censor Americans. But what we discovered was basically a handbook that they had created to use psychological operations and disinformation tactics against the American people. These are tactics that have been developed abroad by the U.S. military and U.S. allies. So to see them turned against the American people, really in reaction to the Trump election in 2016, there was the sense in which Trump was elected because of social media, and these individuals, potentially with support directly from the government, were engaged in using these tactics in order to change the conversation online and engage in mass censorship, which is what we saw with the Twitter files, the Facebook files, and of course is now part of the Missouri versus Biden case that's headed to the Supreme Court.
Okay, so yesterday, Dan Goldman's a Democratic congressman from Manhattan in New York. And you guys got into it. And I really think like the touchstone piece of this entire story really was the Hunter Biden laptop in October of 2020. You brought that up. Here is the exchange for our viewers to watch now.
Are you suggesting the New York Post could participate in a conspiracy to construct the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop?
No, sir. The problem is that hard drives can be manipulated by Rudy Giuliani or Russia.
Well, what's the evidence that that happened?
Well, there is actual evidence of it, but the point is it's not the same thing.
There's no evidence for it, so you're engaging in a conspiracy.
I'm glad you...
I mean, he basically suggests that Rudy Giuliani did it for Moscow. I don't know how far you want to run with that. Yeah. You're welcome to comment on that. But I really think the other thing you said yesterday that a lot of people don't understand, I really like you to explain this right now. You said so many FBI people were working at Twitter. Is that a fact?
I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, the former general counsel, the former deputy director of FBI were both at Twitter at the time that Twitter overrode its own staff recommendations to allow the New York Post story about the Hunter laptop to exist on its platform. They overrode the staff evaluation that it had not violated the terms of service. They censored it very famously. And what's important about that instance of censorship is that it created the perception, including among myself and basically most of my friends and family, that there was something illegitimate about it, that it really maybe the Russians had done something to it. We now know that the Hunter Biden laptop was real. It was actually, in fact, Hunter Biden's own attorney said that it was real. And so the Democrats were saying, oh, we're engaged in a conspiracy theory. They were engaging in a conspiracy theory that somehow the Hunter Biden laptop had been manipulated by the Russians. There is zero evidence of that, contrary to what Congressman Goldman said. And I think this is very important because basically what we saw was an effort by existing FBI agents and former FBI officials to spread disinformation about the Hunter Biden laptop and suggest to the American people, say outright to the American people, that it was a Russian hack and leak operation. And of course, right. President Biden repeated that in the debates. And I think many of us were fooled by that. And that's what's so scary about it is that that was coming directly from U.S. intelligence officials and so-called former intelligence officials.
Two things.